Hi everyone, welcome back to Ask a Monk. I'm getting a lot of different questions here, and I'm probably not going to be able to answer all of them. I'll try my best. But some of the questions I get reoccur or are related, and so I'm going to try to answer some of them in groups. The first group that I often get, and I've got for a long time, and I've always avoided answering, is about monk's life and about my life in specific. And honestly, I don't think my life is a particularly good example of what a monk should be. I've had an interesting and tumultuous monk's life. Although, it might be indicative of the times and exemplary or a good example of what you have to put up with in becoming a monk. But becoming a monk is basically giving up all of the external attachments that we have in favor of a more protected lifestyle. And by protected, I really mean protected from oneself. So a lot of the temptations in an external sense are gone. We're surrounded by the Buddha's teaching. We're surrounded by meditators. We're surrounded by other people doing the same sort of thing or who are interested in mental development. And so we have a much greater chance of developing ourselves in the meditation practice. While at the same time, a lot of the things that would tempt us to get caught up in addiction and get caught up in other ways and in wasting our time are gone. Of course, it's not perfect, and it certainly is an external aspect of our life. There's nothing to say that a monk is immediately going to become enlightened or that a lay person, an ordinary person, can't become enlightened. But it certainly helps. The reason I became a monk is specifically that I figured it would protect me from a lot of the bad habits and bad tendencies that I had, and indeed it has. It's been a really good aid for me to allow me to grow without getting off track. As far as becoming a monk, it can be quite difficult nowadays. It's hard to find a place that's going to accept you to ordain for more than a short period of time. I myself am very much keen on having people ordain, simply because I don't see much of a difference between the two, ordinary life and a monk's life, since it's simply an externality. I mean, a person who comes to meditate with me and doesn't become a monk, and a person who comes to become a monk, I don't see the difference. I don't differentiate the two. If you come to meditate, you come to meditate. The reason you become a monk, in my mind, is because you want to dedicate yourself to long-term meditation and following this path. So I'm keen to have people ordain, once I become eligible to ordain people. We're going to try to ordain our students as novices first, give them the basic precepts. The basic precepts of being a monk are chastity and poverty. And the other one is the abstinence from entertainment. But the big ones are chastity and poverty. So the difference between a meditator and a monk, the monk has to give up money. The monk has to dedicate themselves to the life of poverty. So you're wearing only one set of robes, and when I wash this one, I wear my second robe. You have 3 robes altogether. And not keeping food, not touching money, and so on. So using things which are of benefit. I mean, I even go so far as using, obviously, a computer, but not keeping things and not clinging to things, and not living luxuriously. So you sleep on the floor. But a lot of this is very similar to how meditators live. The difference is a meditator is short term, and for a monk it's long term. As far as ceremonies and preparing and so on and so on, I mean, that's really just technical details. The ordination of a monk is not a ceremony. It shouldn't be considered to be a ceremony. It's an act. It's a formal act of the Buddhist monks. It's like the inauguration of a president or so on, or of a member of Congress. You have to go through a certain process, screening process, and a confirmation process. And once you've gone through that, then you can ordain. It shouldn't be considered a ritual, a ceremony, or some kind of religious observance. It's joining a club, so to speak, or joining a society, and you have to be screened, and so on. Okay, so those are some thoughts on the monk's life. One last thing that I'd like to do is give you a link to a very good, something that's much better than anything I could say on the monk's life. It's very poetic and very to the point. It's something that I always like to read again and again, written by a novice monk, actually, who ordained when he was old, and wrote this in defense of the monks, the monastic life. Okay, so there's a link in the description of this video. Please follow that link if you're interested in understanding the real nature of going forth, of leaving behind the home life, which is what we do when we ordain. Okay, so thanks for the questions. I'll try to get to some more of them tonight and in the next few days. Of course, I'm busy in real life, but I'll do my best. Okay.